They say every family hides a secret. But what if the secret isn't buried? What if it's built into the walls of everything you've ever known? From where are you watching? I'd love to hear what you think, because sometimes the truth doesn't just rewrite your past. It rebuilds your entire life. When my father looked me in the eyes at the reading of his will and said, "You're nothing like your mother," thank God, I thought I'd finally earned his respect. I was wrong. 3 days later, I found out that everything I believed about him, about her, about our family was a lie, and the truth wasn't just shocking. Changed everything. My name's Liam Grant. I'm 39, a construction engineer from Boston. My father, Edward Grant, was a legend in our city, a real estate mogul who built half the skyline. My mother, Helen, died when I was a kid. At least that's what I'd been told. All I ever knew about her came from his version of the story, that she was weak, selfish, and left us because she couldn't handle his world. So I grew up hating her, the woman who, according to him, walked out and never looked back. When my father passed, the will reading felt like a ceremony. Polished, rehearsed, grand. The lawyer sat before a long mahogany table, my older brother Charles and sister Diana beside me. They'd both followed in Dad's footsteps, managing his empire, wearing his ambition like armor. I was the black sheep, the one who preferred designing structures to owning them. Dad's lawyer began. "To Charles and Diana, I leave full control of Grant Holdings and all affiliated properties." They smiled, of course. Then came my name. "To my son Liam, I leave the lockbox stored in my private study. Inside, he'll find what he's been searching for." That was it. No shares, no money, just a box. Diana patted my shoulder like I was a child. Charles didn't even hide his grin. The lockbox was old and heavy, tucked beneath a shelf of architectural awards. Inside, there was no cash or deeds, just a stack of faded letters, some photos, and one envelope marked, "Do not open until you're ready." I opened it anyway. The first letter wasn't from my father. It was from my mother, dated 28 years ago. Her handwriting was neat but trembling. "Liam, if you're reading this, it means the truth finally reached you. I didn't leave you. I was forced to go. Your father made me sign away custody to protect something he built. Something he didn't want the world to know came from me." That line hit me like a wrecking ball. Protect something he built? My father was the builder. What could she have created that he needed to protect? The next morning, I read the rest of the letters, all addressed to my father, from lawyers, patent offices, manufacturers, each one carrying a name I didn't recognize. Helena Ward, my mother's maiden name. She wasn't just a housewife. She was an inventor, the designer of the modular framing system that became the foundation of Grant Holdings' first major project. Every building that bore our family's name had her fingerprints hidden in its walls. But the patents? They weren't hers anymore. Every one had been transferred to Edward Grant, the man who built an empire off her blueprints. The final letter in the box was from my father himself, written 2 months before he died. "Liam, I told myself I was protecting the family name, but what I was really protecting was my pride. Your mother built the first Grant Tower. I built the lie around it. I'm leaving you what's hers, and now yours. In the bottom of the box is the original contract. Tear it up or set it right. The choice is yours." I lifted the false bottom. There they were, the patent transfers, the rights, the proof that everything my father built started with her designs. I didn't know whether to feel anger or admiration. Maybe both. My whole life I'd wanted to be like him, powerful, respected. But he'd stolen all of that from the woman he claimed had abandoned us. At first, I didn't tell my siblings. I needed to be sure. I went to the archives, pulled every file I could find. My mother's name appeared again and again in the early records, only to vanish once the company took off. Finally, I called Charles and Diana to the office. "You should see this," I told them. They came in smug, assuming I wanted an apology. Instead, I laid the documents on the table. "Dad didn't build the first tower," I said. "Mom did." Diana's face went pale. Charles called it nonsense. But the letter in our father's handwriting silenced them both. The press caught wind of it, the hidden partner, the stolen credit. And for the first time in decades, Helen Grant's name appeared beside our father's on the company's legacy page. I used what he left me, not his money, but her truth, to start the Ward Initiative, a program funding women in architecture and design. And on the first day of construction for our new headquarters, I placed that old lockbox in the foundation, sealed under concrete and glass. The plaque above it reads, "For Helen Ward Grant, the woman who built what others claimed." I thought that was the end. But truth has a way of echoing through walls you thought were solid. 3 days later, I received another envelope. No address, no sender, just one sentence. "You weren't supposed to find the box." My blood ran cold. Someone knew. Someone who'd been watching. Inside was nothing but ashes, burned fragments of paper and a single key. The number on the key matched an old property deed in my father's files, the original Grant factory on the harbor. The place was dead silent. The walls reeked of salt, rust, and oil. In a forgotten room, I found a photograph. My mother standing between my father and another man, Charles Reeves, my father's old partner. Her smile was strained, his hand too firm on her shoulder. In the corner, faintly penciled, were 4 chilling words. It wasn't supposed to be. That night, my apartment door stood ajar. The box gone. Every letter, every piece of proof gone. Only a single note left on the table. "Some things are better left buried, Liam. Walk away. For your mother's sake." But I couldn't. I found Reeves living in a mansion outside the city. He didn't seem surprised when I appeared at his door. "Edward's boy," he rasped. "I wondered when you'd come knocking." I demanded answers. He poured himself a drink and said, "Your mother wasn't weak. She was brilliant. She wanted to go public, expose the company for diverting government funds into private projects. Your father panicked. He said he'd handle it. Then, she was gone." My pulse pounded. "You're saying he?" Reeves didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. "No one just disappears," he said quietly, "unless someone decides they should." When I left his house, the world looked different. The skyline outside my window, every tower, felt like a tombstone. I confronted my siblings the next morning. Charles was furious. Diana was terrified. "You'll destroy everything he built," Charles shouted. "No," I said. "He already did." For the first time, Diana whispered. She used to sing to us. I remember now, and I realized even memories can be rewritten. We agreed to reveal the truth. But before we could, the Grant factory burned to the ground. An accident, the report claimed. But I knew better. That night, I got a message on my phone, a grainy video clip of a man walking toward my mother's car the night she left. It wasn't my father. It was Reeves. By the next morning, Reeves was dead, heart failure. And on his desk sat a photograph of me at my mother's grave, taken from a distance. Pinned beneath it, another note, "You're not done yet." For days I barely slept. I didn't know who to trust, or if any of it even mattered. But then, one morning, I woke up knowing what I had to do. Not for vengeance, for truth. I drove to the new headquarters site before sunrise. The city glowed gold around me. The skyline, my father's empire, towering above the fog. I carried the empty lockbox to the foundation, lowered it into the wet concrete, and whispered, "This is where the lies end." As the sun rose, I sealed it beneath the glass plate that bore her name. Weeks later, the story broke everywhere, the truth about Grant Holdings. The woman erased from history, the empire built on her brilliance. Our father's name didn't vanish. It simply made room for hers. And from what he left me, not fortune but redemption, I built the Ward Initiative, a legacy rooted not in power, but in honesty. A month later, one final letter arrived. Elegant handwriting. No return address. The faint scent of lilacs, her scent. "My dear Liam, you found what was meant for you. Truth survives even when we don't. Don't seek revenge. Build something honest instead. That will be my peace and yours."
No signature.
Just that familiar script, trembling and beautiful. Now, sometimes at night, when I walk through Boston streets, the skyline gleams like a confession, and I swear, when the wind hits just right, I can hear her voice, not angry, not broken, just free. My father built his empire in stone and lies. My mother built hers in truth and silence. And me? I'm building mine out of both. Because legacy isn't about what we leave behind. It's about the truth we finally choose to face. And I've faced mine. If you've ever discovered your parents weren't who you thought they were, tell me, from where you're watching, what did that truth teach you?